So is the Renpho Eyeris 3 a good option for dry eyes? Now you might have seen my review I did about the Eyeris 1, and there were a couple things I was disappointed in the Eyeris 1. Mainly I didn't feel like it would be as effective or as efficient for dry eyes. So a lot of people asked me about the Eyeris 3. So I got my hands on one, tested it out. Is this one good for dry eyes? Let's focus in. And for this review, and like the other review, I'll mainly look at it through the lens of, is it a good warm compress for dry eyes? We will go over the other settings like the massage settings and the sound, the Bluetooth, the music and all that, but I just want to know if it's effective as a warm compress. So just a quick recap of what makes a good warm compress. Number one, you want it to keep its heat for at least 15 minutes. Studies show that that time is where you'll get the best results from a warm compress, 15 minutes. Number two, you want it to reach a certain temperature. You want it to reach between 40 and 45 degrees Celsius. They found that that temperature does the best at liquefying the oil in your oil glands. And so the main thing with the warm compress is you are applying this heat for 15 minutes to try and liquefy the oil in your oil glands so that oil will work a little bit better, will stabilize the tear film and help with your dry eyes. So let's first talk about the timing. With the Eyeris 3, it's easy to reach that 15-minute mark of sustained heat. It has 10, 15, and 20-minute settings. And same thing with the Eyeris 1, no problem with the time. If I had to say one thing, maybe pick the 20-minute setting. It does take a little bit of time for it to reach up to adequate warm temperature. And so if you want to get that 15 minutes, maybe just pick the 20-minute one so you get the full 15 minutes at the right temperature. And speaking of the temperature, how does it compare to the Eyeris 1? Does it get warm enough for it to be effective as a warm compress? Luckily with this one, it does have low, medium, and high heat settings on there, with the high being advertised as going up to 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 45 degrees Celsius, which is exactly where you want to be. But just like the Eyeris 1, I couldn't ever get it to that temperature. I tried doing it at first, just letting it sit on the table, measured the temperature, didn't quite get there. I put it on my eyes, I measured the temperature after I did a session, didn't quite get there. But on the high setting, it does creep up into that 40 degrees Celsius setting. So it does kind of creep up into that setting where it can be effective. And I did feel like this one was more effective than the Eyeris 1. It felt warmer. It felt like it was doing more on my eyes, more of a warm compress. My eyes felt a little bit more different than the Eyeris 1. And so I do think this one was working better. I also felt the material was better and softer, easier on the eyes during the warm compress, so I liked that better than the Eyeris 1 as well. So now let's talk about the massager part. This is called an eye massager, and this is the part that actually kind of wigs me out a little bit. Now there is some worry and some research that if you actually do a warm compress, you're applying heat to the eyelid and the eyeball. And if you apply pressure, maybe you do an eyelid massage following that warm compress, there's a little bit of a worry there that maybe there might be some long-term change to the eye. Are you changing the structure of the eyeball? Are you changing the structure of the cornea? Could you possibly induce keratoconus or astigmatism? There's some worry there and some research that kind of does show some truth to that. And so because I'm thinking about that, the eyelid massager part does kind of wig me out a little bit. Now luckily with the Eyeris 3, it has 3 different pressure settings, low, medium, high. I really didn't notice a big difference between the different settings, but on the low pressure, it does press on your eyeball. And like I said, it kind of wigs me out a little bit, but I can see how it might be relaxing to a lot of people. But I don't like it. Don't like it. But I will say this. The one thing about the Eyeris 3 that's better than the Eyeris 1, Eyeris 2, and other eyelid massagers is this one you can actually toggle different settings. You can toggle the portion that presses on the eye. You can toggle that off. So all you're feeling is pressure around the temples. And that part is actually kind of neat. That's the part that I liked. If you don't want any pressure on the eyelid at all or the eyeball, then you can turn it off. You can turn the pressure off altogether, or you can just have it on your temple. Now, the thing that I kind of found funny or ironic is the setting that you can toggle just the pressure on the eyeball. So all the pressure is going on the eyeball. They call it retinal protection. So it's like you're protecting the retina, even though you're pushing on the eyeball. It just seemed backwards to me, but I can kind of see where they're coming from. Hey, you're going to target the eye, so they call it retinal protection, but I don't know. That part was kind of funny that that's what it's named. I think it should be the other way around, but that's just me. The Bluetooth on this one is great. You can listen to audiobooks, you can listen to your music. I can hear it while it's going. It's loud enough. It also has its own relaxing music or sounds if you want to use those as well. So whatever you want to use, it works great with that. So yeah, no complaints there. The one thing I didn't like was the battery life. The battery life on this one, I can maybe get through 2 sessions and then it's dead. And then I have to recharge it, which is no big deal, but it just seems like the battery does not last long. And maybe it's because I'm always playing with the different settings. I'm like, hey, let's try the low, the medium, the high. Let's see what that does. Because I'm testing it out, and maybe if I just set it on the settings and just let it go, maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I thought the battery didn't last long at all. So do I think this one passes the test? Yeah, I actually think it does. It gets a Dr. Eye Guy seal of approval. I've never done that. I don't know why I did that, but I actually think this one can be effective for dry eyes as a warm compress. So if you're looking for a type of mask like this, the eye massager type of mask, and you want it to do well for dry eyes, I would go for this one. Now, they can be a little bit more expensive. Depending on the color you get, it might range between $10 and $30 more than the other ones. They go on sale a lot, but I do think it is worth the extra money due to those settings. And if you want to check out the review of the Eyeris one, I'll put it right here. I go a little bit more in detail about Meibomian Gland Dysfunction with the oil glands, or I'll go over some dry eye stuff in this playlist right here. Glad you watched the video. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Stay focused.